Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are back with our fun coach, broadcaster, podcaster, all the above. Right, Marsha?
All the above.
Marsha Vanwynsberghe joining us here again to talk about all she does with her business coaching, storytelling coaching, and just being an awesome human being, which I think is most important, right? You introduce people with titles, but you're someone who I've come to know, and it's a pleasure speaking with you. So I'll have you do the honors, if you don't mind, of introducing yourself fully.
Absolutely. And it's my pleasure. Honestly, I'm absolutely loving these conversations. My name is Marsha Vanwynsberghe, and I'm from Ontario, Canada. I am a storytelling business coach, and I specialize a lot with life adversity. So people who've dealt with really difficult stories and learning how to reframe their stories, see them differently, pull the lessons out, and build a business that impacts others. And that is what led me onto this journey now, which is branched into podcasting, speaking, coaching, and writing.
Fantastic. Well, it's exciting to have you here. Would you want to tell everyone where you're based out of? I know you work with everyone, but would you mind giving us a little bit of that background too?
Absolutely. I am based right now out of my just one bedroom right now.
Yes.
Right. But yes, I am in Ontario, Canada, and I do work with women from all over the world because thank God for the technology that we have right now and what we're able to do. So yes, that is definitely what I do, and supporting so many different people as they are working to build their business.
And it's marshavanw.com.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
So what do you have in store for us today? Did you have an area of focus for the show?
Sure. Yeah, I do actually. I know I've got a couple of areas, but I have one because this one has come up over the last few days, and people who are working to grow their business and figure out, okay, what does storytelling have to do with my business, and what does that have to do with it? So I really wanted to touch in on why our story is important, especially when it comes to building our business, if we are in this space of coaching, speaking, writing, or podcasting, if that's okay. That's where I was thinking of going today.
Absolutely. Let's begin. Go ahead.
Awesome. So one of the things that I like to talk about is owning our story. And what does owning our story mean? So whether you are having the story that you have held on to for a long period of time, or you look at it and it's the parts of your life that you're not really sure you want anyone to know about, but you would love to be able to either build a business that impacts others or really come to the other side of that and see it differently, then your story is part of it. So what happens is that we can take those lessons, pull them out, and start to see what you are the expert of. If you are out here trying to build a coaching business in the online space, or as a podcaster, you have inherent themes of what you have lived through, what you have come through, what you're an expert of, and learning how to tap into what those stories are, what those lessons are, allows you to actually speak with confidence in what you have come through. Because when you start to tie that all together, then your potential people, your clients, can start to see you and hear you. So if I back that up by a second, some people will say, well, I want a life coach. And I'm like, well, what do you want to life coach about? And you say, life stuff. And I'm like, okay, but that's kind of big, right? That's actually big. So instead, if we can look at it, what are the things that you are the expert of, that you have lived through, that you have come through, and how can you learn how to reframe that, see it differently, and actually speak from that standpoint? You know, whether it's you're teaching people how to build their confidence, you're teaching people how to overcome tragedies and challenges. And you know, it sounds really negative. It's not, because as I was coaching a group last night, I realized, and I'll back up into my story a little bit, that I'm in a space of being grateful for some of the most difficult things that I have come through, because we cannot love who we are and hate everything that has made us who we are. We cannot. And that is really a space that it comes from. So if I can share a little bit about where my journey started from, it started many years ago. We started dealing with teen substance abuse. I have been a fighter most of my life. I push, I go, all those things. And those traits were great to help me through a lot of challenges in my life. Except there comes a point where those strengths that we have eventually become a weakness because they don't work. They eventually, right? Our solutions are not working. And I had to stop being that person. I had to learn how to love my kids for who they were. And honestly, just take care of me and make myself that priority. As I started to do that, then I was able to look at letting go of trying to control, fix, and manage all of those things. All my relationships improved. It led to writing a book, multiple collaborative books. And it was really about the lessons that I've learned on that journey and how to share a story. So as I talk in this sense, it's not a case where I'm up just coaching and speaking about dealing with substance abuse. It's actually not that at all. But all of the things that we have learned actually help make us who we are. And that in turn helps our clients. The more I was able to lean into those lessons has now allowed me to connect with women dealing with all kinds of stories and tragedies and challenges and adversities in their life. But what happens is when we learn how to own that, we actually learn how to heal that. And our people can actually find us. The people we're meant to impact can actually find us because we start to speak and we start to use our voice.
Beautiful. Yeah. Wow. And you come into the picture like, well, you're very easy to talk to. You're very knowledgeable in the fact we've all been through a lot, and you've shared that experience in your journey. And it's like, you become like, can I say it, like a best friend, like a cheerleader? Like that's kind of the role of a life adversity coach. No, I mean, part of it, like,
yes,
right. You want people to think, you're there for the ride and you're cheering them on, you're helping them. You don't make decisions for them. You just try to let them see experiences and let them make decisions yourself. So you're different from like a therapist who would tell you things that you should be doing. You are here to listen, to absorb, and just kind of hold their hand and walk with them a little bit, right?
I love that. Actually, you just really touched on something there that I absolutely love. I have like nothing. I spent a number of sessions in therapy, counseling, support, learning how to do and move through this for myself. This is my own for myself. I was in a space of, okay, I didn't want to sit and talk. I wanted to move. I wanted to do something and move forward. And so, yes, that is definitely something I love doing with my clients, is helping them to connect the dots and see where they actually are that expert in their life and help them to move forward and heal, not just staying in that space. So I always say with my clients, which is actually the same words I've used with my own kids, is that I will not push or pull you through life, but I will walk beside you and I'll cheer you on as much as you need to and help you. But it's not my job to carry you, and it's not my job to push or pull you. And I think in the coaching industry, I think that's incredibly important, because if you only go by what the coach says, we lose our own intuition with what we are here to do. We get guidance, but I do think that it's really, as a coach, you are helping the client tune into what they are capable of doing, what they know, what they probably just shunned or shut that voice down and stop listening to it. So it's not about giving them the answers, but definitely about supporting them and helping them to get to the answers themselves.
Got it. All right. Sorry to chime in.
No, that was a great question.
No, you're a cheerleader. You're guiding them, you support them. I like what you said about the push and pull. That's good.
I said it to my kids, and I still, that my boys are grown now, and I use those words many times. Like, I will support you all the way through, but I will not carry you. Like, that is not what my job is. Like, your job is to carry yourself. And I think today is actually what they call, is it International Sons Day? I think it is, because I
thought it was yesterday. I'm so confused.
Who knows?
National Daughters Day, and I missed the post, and I see everyone posting, but I think it was from yesterday. So I don't know, but
no idea. I did. So I shared that today because it made me think of like my kids. And the thing with my story is, for a long time, I was living, honestly, to be totally honest, with a lot of anger, resentment, comparison, frustration, all of the things, because I felt it wasn't fair what we were dealing with, which, I mean, we can all attest that really challenging things happen to good people all the time. So it's not necessarily about, that's a victim mentality. And being in a space of, learning how to move through that story has changed my life and my outlook. And somebody sent a message and said, I couldn't believe you actually dedicated your book to your kids. And I said, I did. I actually did dedicate. And that's not all fluff. It's not, but that's the headspace I learned how to get to, because I wouldn't be the person I am today. And do I wish I could have learned it a different way? Of course, like nobody wants challenges, but I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for them. And so I actually thank them, because I am a different person because of that. And I've learned to appreciate so many more things. So that's an example I wanted to give, that you can take really difficult stories and find a way to be on the other side of it with less anger, less resentment, less all of those really toxic, low vibe emotions. Like, wouldn't it be good if a lot of us could carry less of those emotions?
Yeah.
Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
It would be really good for a whole lot of reasons. No joke there. But so I just think it's really important, because when we learn to go through that, we heal ourselves. And as we heal ourselves, we can step into what we are capable of, right? We stop limiting ourselves. We are able to step into that space. So as we are in a space right now, I do have 2 podcasts. One is Own Your Choices, Own Your Life, and one is Everybody Holds a Story. We are working with authors in Everybody Holds a Story in a collaborative book where they're all sharing body stories of what they have come through and what they've experienced. And as we do that, they are now leaving those solutions for the next people and the next people. And I was on a call yesterday, and I love the way that her name is Lori Harder. The way that she said it was that when you go through a door and you have found your way through the door, the best thing to do is like leave it open for somebody else, instead of slamming it back on them and say, I have the solutions, but I'm not going to share them with anybody because they're mine. And that's not the mentality. It's really helping clients to learn how to share those lessons.
Beautiful. And by the way, the podcast, where can we find them? Tell me when they happen. Anything you want to tease? Do you have any upcoming or any good stories from recently? Some of the authors you interviewed?
Yes, I do actually. So Own Your Choices, Own Your Life comes out Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Thursdays are interview days. There's some incredible interviews coming up. And my second one is Everybody Holds a Story, and that comes out every Wednesday. We have a couple of interviews coming up, and this is the beautiful thing of social media. All right, you see somebody's message, you see somebody's story, and I will message them and say, I think that like we would love to be able to interview you. And not everybody's going to respond, and that's completely fine, because you don't want to attach to this, right? You just put some good out there. I would love to do that. And I reached out to a young girl who was 21 dealing with endometriosis, and which is something I did go through myself. And it's just so much exposure there, and what she's doing with putting a voice to a story. And so we had her on, and then we have a couple other huge ones coming up, which are just, I'm so excited about. So
awesome. And we can find these all on the website as well, right?
Yeah, they're on the website, or you'll find them everywhere between like Apple, Spotify, Google, all of those things. Yeah, definitely.
Great. Just making sure. All right, good. So we talked about that a little bit. Again, your book, the podcast. And what else did you want to talk about today?
Well, I want to, Oh, I lost my one train of thought there. Sorry about that.
I love that you're prepared. You have notes, so this is a good thing.
I do actually today. I want to put some things together to do that. What I want to do, one other thing when it comes to our story that I think is really important is I will get messages saying, okay, but how do I do that when I've had these things happen that are so traumatic and so difficult? How do I possibly move through that? The word that I really want anybody who's listening to focus on, and I know this can be a triggering word, is the word ownership. So we cannot control what happens to us. And I think it's a Stephen Covey quote, like, we are not responsible for the things that happen to us. We are responsible for the decisions that we make, for how we respond. And that's where ownership comes into place. And so ownership is actually this is kind of where our responsibility is. How do I choose how to respond? How do I react? What do I do? And I realize there's triggers everywhere. Like I realize that, but triggers are also showing us things that we can work on ourselves That's ownership. And when we can be in a space of ownership and taking that responsibility, that is when we can actually take some of our own personal power back, and we can be in a space of creating change, right? We can't create change from a victim space, from a victim mentality. That just doesn't happen, because when we're in a victim mentality, we're waiting for our circumstances to change around us. But when we take ownership, we are almost back in the driver's seat, able to create change again. So that is one of the biggest ways that this starts, is we start to unwrap or unpack the story, look at the things that you have lived through, look for the commonalities that are there, positive and negative. There's always, we tend to do both, right? We tend to keep repeating lessons. And then where can I take that into ownership? And as you start to do that, you start to realize that I actually do have, I have some control in my own life. And I think that's another piece of, especially as we're seeing right now in the world, is I certainly can't control half of what's happening around us, but I can control how I respond. I can control how I show up and what I do. And coming from that space is also giving permission to others to do the same.
Beautiful. Good. I got permission. I like it. I like it. It's okay. All right. It's okay to go through tough times.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Then the other thing I think is really important to talk about, and I know this is another triggering word, is like letting go and surrendering. And as a fighter and perfectionist for years, learning how to surrender was like the last thing that I could learn. Is the last lesson that I had to learn. And I think it's because you only learn how to surrender when there's no other options left.
Yeah.
Right. And really, I think it's just important, because there was a turning point in my own story. And this is pretty consistent in everyone that I get to work with. There comes a point in time that you literally look at all of your options. You've tried everything and no change has happened. And that's when you realize that it's not your problem to fix anymore. So if we put all of our energy into problems that aren't ours to fix, manage, or control, then we ultimately have nothing left for ourselves.
That we've become depleted.
Yes. And then we're frustrated again, right? We're back into
put that oxygen mask on first.
I know,
right? It's hard when
How
you're
many
mom.
times?
You're like, no, it just makes sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's hard. It's hard to do. I completely understand. And it is hard to do. But there comes a point where that's the only choice that's left. I remember going through a lot of support programs, and when we were in the thick of it with our boys, and I remember literally almost taking this sheet and that I would have checked off with all the things that they told me that I had to do. And they said, yes, you're doing a great job. I'm like, but we still have all of these problems. I don't understand. I did everything you told me to. And I remember a counselor saying, because it's not yours to solve anymore. And I'm like, how is that possible? As a parent, how is that possible? And I said, it's not. Your job is to lead yourself. Your job is to parent yourself. Your job is to be that example. And I know that that's a hard one to hear as a parent, because I was in that space. But once I went there, then all of a sudden, everybody had to take ownership for their own choices, and everybody was responsible for their own consequences of their choice. And that's when things really start to change. So I let all of that own me for a long time. And whatever is owning you is controlling you. It is dictating what you say yes or no to. It is limiting you. And there comes a point where letting all of your past define what you can do in your future, it's just keeping you stuck. So taking ownership completely allows you to see the stories differently, which allows you to heal, move through them, and then start to embody and use what you know as a person, coach, speaker, whatever that is, because that's how you actually get to step into the impact you're here to create.
Beautifully said. Wow, you're on a roll today, darling.
Notes.
It's good. It's good.
Oh, okay. So there's so many things. There's so many things that I can take from that. But I just really want it to land that we can all be a ripple effect in our life and someone else's. And when we can step into that space, it's a beautiful thing to see. I have a couple of clients right now who are working through unbelievable stories, from loss of a child to, difficult. And I know once my husband said, are you okay with this? Is this the kind of work that you want to do? And I'm like, it lights me up, because watching these women come to a space of recognizing that they can take some of their most painful experiences and do something good with them. It literally changes the whole trajectory, and that can help so many other people in the process.
And that's what you're here to do. You mentioned before, though, about limiting beliefs, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us have those. It's fear and the whole like, don't think I'm good enough. I don't think I can do this. I don't. And I catch myself doing those things all the time. It's our fear. But how do you change that to like go forward? Because we all kind of, I just feel like if you don't try, you're never going to get there. But I've been stuck in so many times where, oh, I'm not good enough for that job. And I'm not, and you downplay it. And then I also feel if you downplay and it makes you feel a little more better when you're not accepted in a sense. But then the other part is, well, maybe I didn't put the right karma, the right energy out there to get it back. Do you know what I'm saying? So limiting beliefs can really limit you, right? I mean, do you believe in that like karma, like law of attraction, what you're putting out there coming back to you?
I do. I do, in a sense. I do believe that, because I also think when I watch people treat other people horribly, I look at it and go, please don't let me do that. Like, please don't let me get in that space of doing that, because we've lost a little bit of understanding where everyone else is coming from. First off, limiting beliefs, I think, is really important, that they are internal. They're what we have. They are ours. So you could say to somebody that you have limiting beliefs about something else, and they're going to look at you and go, that's ridiculous. Look at what you've done. Like, they can tell you 10,000 times over. It doesn't matter. If it's yours, they're real to you. And I think that's the piece that huge. Our limiting beliefs are they're buried in the 95% of our subconscious mind. So you can say all the positive things, but until you actually kind of dig out and do that work, the NLP, the subconscious mind, is when you start to change that language. When anyone has limiting beliefs, because I have them every single day, honestly, sometimes the chatter in my brain can be crazy, where it's just, I'm like, you don't actually believe that, but that's what you think or say. So I believe that when we keep our thoughts stuck inside of our body, they can be toxic. If it's the same thoughts we have every single day, those limiting beliefs, they become very toxic. Learning how to, if I feel myself thinking one of those limiting beliefs, I say it out loud. And the second I say it out loud, I'm like, is that actually true? Yeah. Because it's actually not true. And would I this one always gets me, would I let anyone talk to me that way? Because 99.9% of the time, the answer is no. And so if I wouldn't let anyone else talk to me that way, why would I do that to myself? And then I go into, where have I proven that that's not true in my life? Like, where have I actually gathered proof that that's not true? And I go back and I look, and I literally start ticking off, you did this, you did this, you did this, you did this. And then it starts to create that foundation that, oh, that's not true, actually. So I think it's a case of, in a long, short answer, I think it's a case of, it's not as simple as saying, don't do that. It's a case of unpacking it and recognizing, is it true or not? And then rebuilding those limiting beliefs. So eventually, that as they keep showing up, they don't knock you out at the knees. Okay. And keep you there. They just are like speed bumps.
Yeah, little hurdles to overcome, which we can get through. Good.
I would also say that with those limiting beliefs, will you regret it if you don't act on it? Like, that's always one that does it for me. So if I think of an opportunity and I'm like, I think I just hit something.
Dude, yes.
Oh, I love it. So this is actually one of my go-tos on a regular basis. Will I regret it if I don't try, if I don't go ahead and do it? And if it's a yes, then it's like, okay, well, Marsha, you're going to figure it out as you do it. You're going to figure it out as you go. And you're never going to have it figured out, because you're actually not supposed to have it figured out. You're going to learn as you go. And as we go through, the cool thing is that we can have an idea of what we're saying yes to, and we think it looks like this. But then as we start down that path, 5 other doors of opportunity might open up, and it's like, oh, I was actually supposed to come this way because this is where I'm going next.
Yes.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say that part of it, because it's amazing how much we are the ones holding ourselves back in our life for whatever reason that is. But we have to go first. We have to always go first. We can't lead anyone else if we don't lead ourselves first. It's not possible.
Thank you for the advice. I'm taking that personally too.
I love the Zoom part because I could see the light. Your eyes just went like,
and I can't even see myself. So you must have saw something.
I did.
I see blur, but yeah, no, I mean, I do this work and I love what I do, but there was a job opportunity and I'm like, do I apply for it? Do I not? And one of those things. And I'm like, well, I won't know unless I try, but, oh, well, maybe now they're probably not going to want me. It's the whole limiting beliefs and I'm in it. Yes.
No, you're not alone. I promise you are not at all. It's amazing. And I think there's so much courage, and I think actually it's personal power to even say and admit that. I do, because I think it's a case of now what happens is people can see you differently. And that allows that. So, I've kind of been in a space of figuring out, like, how do I share some of my thoughts, opinions, and things that are going on right now, because we're still in this time. And somebody messaged me last night and they said, it's nice to know that you actually have times that you struggle, because I assumed that you don't ever. And I'm like, why would you make that assumption? Like, that is just, I don't want to be on a pedestal. That is nothing that I have ever asked for. And I've tried to be very real. So as I had this conversation, she's like, well, I just assumed you were here. I'm like, but that assumption is only hurting you, because it's not true. It's actually not true. So I think the more human and the more real we can be with people, again, our stories, who we are, I think actually allows others to go forward and do the same thing too.
Beautifully said. And this is a perfect place to wrap it up. How can we reach out to you, darling?
Anywhere on social media. If you start typing Marsha Vanwynsberghe, my name will come up. You can connect with me, DM me anywhere on social media, and I will connect. My website is marshavanwynsberghe.com, and my podcast is Own Your Choices, Own Your Life, and Everybody Holds a Story.
And your book, where can we get it?
It is on Amazon, and it is called When She Stopped Asking Why. And it was actually, we are coming up on to just under 4 years ago that it was launched. And I still get downloads like on a monthly basis. And I love it. It lights me up. So yes.
Good. And by the way, how long did it take to write that book? I mean, just curious.
Great question. No, it's a great question. I would say I probably spent a couple of years with journaling, just trying to sort through my head. And it wasn't until a mentor said, I think you have a book here. And I'm like, there's no book here. There's no way. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, it was a book. So it was multiple journals.
Nice story that added up. All right, good.
Yeah. And it probably took about 8 to 12 months to get it from all of that into the book format.
Got it. All right. MarshaVanwynsberghe.com. Thank you for your time today. Have a great day. And to everyone else the same. We'll see you soon. Don't go anywhere. Bye-bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.